Colonel Lundy.
Hi, how you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Taking it easy.
That's good. It sounds like or looks like you're on the job currently.
Just in time
Just coming in.
for your interview.
All right, that's good. Well, thank you again for joining. I'm not sure if you have seen previous lives that we have done, but pretty much we're just trying to cover all of the careers within the industry. We have spoken to three airline pilots, Jamaican pilots so far, and all are based in the Middle East. But a lot of persons would like to get a different perspective, a different type of flying. A different type of pilot. We'd love to hear um, the type of flying that you would do as a military pilot, and I would figure that would have been probably the best person to speak to everyone on the live. But before I get into it, I just wanted to introduce you to the Aviation Club of Jamaica. It's a organization that was founded back in 2006 for aviation enthusiasts to provide them with the transitional development to transition from the enthusiast state to actually becoming aviation professionals. And we call it the Aviation Club of Jamaica, not the Flight Club of Jamaica, because flying is not the only career within the industry. There's so many careers involved. Those who make the airplane, operate the airplane, support the airplane, and contribute to the safe transitioning of the airplane from point A to point B. So we try to cover the entire industry. Um, there are many persons who want to become pilots, but have to venture out into different areas before they actually get to the cockpit. There are persons who become flight attendants and then get to the cockpit, or those who work at the airport like myself before, getting to the cockpit and so on. So that's pretty much what we're doing, and we're trying to build or rebuild the general aviation community in Jamaica by getting persons like yourselves involved, speaking to the younger ones, speaking to even persons of a similar age group as you to kind of hear, that you don't have to be young to do it, and even if you're young, it might not happen when you're young. Even if you're in a mid age group, it's still a possibility. Just to cover all bases. But from the little I know you're a military pilot in the Jamaica Defense Force Air Wing. I know you're very experienced flying all sorts of Bell machines from the 206 to now the 429 and everything in between. So I know you have a very good resume that would want us to have you here with us today to pretty much speak on your life before aviation, your life in aviation now, and what you see yourself doing in the next couple of years. So thank you again for joining us. But we'd also want to start off by telling us a little about yourself, the Brian Lundy, not the lieutenant or the colonel or the captain, just the Brian Lundy. Yeah, I figure you're born in Jamaica, right? Born and bred in
Yes,
Jamaica. Yeah,
born
but
born and bred.
which parish?
Um, I'm from the parish of St. Catherine, a
Okay.
community called Brownstone, which is part of the
Okay.
Greater Point Hill community.
Okay. All right. And which school did you go to?
I went to Johnson Grant High School in Spanish Town, actually.
Jonathan
Um,
Grant. Okay.
that's right. That's right.
All right. And what happened after you left high school? What did you do?
Interestingly, when I left Johnson Grant, I went to Excelsior Community College,
Okay.
and I did a year and a half year there before I had to leave before completing school. So I'm a college dropout,
Okay.
if you look at it that way.
Okay. I got you. And did you have any hobbies growing up?
um, Sporting hobbies. I really, really love cricket. I played a lot of cricket in high school.
Okay.
And then, even when I transitioned to the JDF, I did a lot of management of the same sport. But as it relates to hobbies, really, just sports. And I'm a outside enthusiast, so I really, really like finding and seeking out rivers. I love rivers. But
Yeah.
save and except for those and everything from an outdoors perspective,
Hmm.
that's me.
Okay, so you're the type of person who would ride up mountains, hike, as you say, you jump off into rivers wherever you can find them.
That's
I
right.
assume you'll do things like skydiving as well if you got the opportunity.
It
Um,
is on the list. Skydiving is on the list. I haven't done it as yet,
okay,
but it is on the list. I love zip lining. I've zip lined as high as 10,000 feet before, so I
okay.
really really like outdoors type stuff.
Where exactly did you do that zip lining that high?
Oh, that was in Colorado, up in the
Colorado.
Rockies.
Okay. Okay, cool. So what was life like before you got into aviation though? You know, you went to Jonathan Grant, then you went to Excelsior and didn't finish there. But what was life before, in between all of that
Um,
and before aviation?
I am from really humble beginnings. I'm from a fairly large family. I have six siblings.
Okay.
We grew up in the same house. I'm a country boy, as you may realize. So I'm used to walking for miles to go and plant the fields,
Okay.
coming back, spending a lot of time at rivers, playing with my friends, and all of them wonderful stuff that you do. The thing
Okay.
about country is that you get to appreciate all the space that you have, so you make use of the space.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so as I said, I grew up in a fairly large family, and as I said, I had six siblings, and then I had a lot of cousins as well.
Okay.
Um, so when I eventually left Point Hill, I I went to Johnson Grant, dropped out of XED because it was from a financial standpoint really, and the old lady couldn't afford it. So I left XED, and when I left XED, I went back home, and I was home for about a month, and I got bored because having gone school and in a state now where you're supposed to be helping out and you can't help out.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down for about a month at home, and then I heard about the National Youth Service. Now,
Okay.
who I am today, the National Youth Service has a very, very large part to play in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I signed up and then I went to Chesterville in, I think it was May of 2000,
Okay.
and I did a month's training in Chesterville. And once we finish there, the idea behind the program is that they train you for a month, and then they'll give you or place you in an institution so you get work experience for about a year. And hopefully, at the end of that year, the
Mm-hmm.
institution will hire you. Or if you're so lucky and get another job, then it will work out for you, work out for the National Youth Service. So
Okay.
I did that for about 9 months. I worked I worked at Food for the Poor in a warehouse.
Okay.
The muscles that I have now have receded because when I was at Food for the Poor, I lifted some bags.
A lot of boxes. Okay.
But it was good because when I went to Food for the Poor, I met Warrant Officer Class 2 who had just left JDF,
Okay.
Mr. Lake. So I started my whole drilling there because every lunchtime it was lunch, and then the other half hour was for drill.
Okay.
So that was good because we were cadets, and as such, cadets can't just be hanging around the warehouse. You got to learn to drill. So
Yeah.
I did that, and I did Food for the Poor. And my life as always has been all about opportunities. So once I left Johnson Grant and then joined the National Youth Service, I got up there and I went to Food for the Poor. I was
Okay.
working there, and a lady from the Inland Revenue was passing through, and she was like, "They're looking to hire people to work at the
Okay.
Inland Revenue,"
Mm-hmm.
and she indicated to us that you must have at least three CXC subjects. Now I had
Okay.
six, and I intended to make the best use of that because I was doing. They promoted me from lifting rice and lifting cement and loading trucks and offloading
Trucks.
trucks.
Yeah.
When they realized that I had some subjects, and they placed me in the office to work as an office clerk. So I
Okay.
was working as an office clerk. So I'm used to promotion.
Okay.
And when she came by, she asked all the guys that were there, and I told her, and Food for the Poor didn't have an issue with me going to do the interview.
Okay.
So I went and I did that interview, and I left Food for the Poor in December, and I started working at Inland Revenue
Okay.
from 2001, January 2001.
Mhm. Okay. And how did you know transition into the JDF and more so the JDF Air Wing?
Okay, so when I joined the National Youth Service, I was part of the first cadet corps, and the
Okay.
cadet corps was trained by all JDF persons. So we had
Okay.
a captain, Captain Robert Hibbert. He was the training officer, and then we had about probably 8 to 10 corporals that were there
Okay. Yeah.
going through. So we all had an opportunity to do the JDF test, and I did
Okay.
the JDF test in October of 2000,
Okay.
and majority of us passed. So we're just there waiting. We didn't get any call. We thought that they had sufficient persons, they had recruited sufficient persons, and
Sure.
we just didn't know what was happening. So if you cast your mind back, when I got the job at Inland Revenue, I ran with it. So I was
Okay.
working at Inland Revenue, and in June of 2001, I got a
Mhm.
call from the military, and the military said if I was still interested in becoming a soldier, and I was
Okay.
like, yes. So I went to the management at Inland Revenue and told them that, listen, got a call from the military. I've always
Mhm.
wanted to be a soldier, so I'm going to run this opportunity. They said there's a
Okay.
lot of opportunity here at the Inland Revenue. You can grow into
Mhm.
the position that you are. And I
Mhm.
said, I know, but I really want to join the military. And
Okay.
the lady that I was talking to, she says, okay, you're young. If it is things don't work out at the JDF, you can always come back.
Okay.
And I said, thank you very much. And I left the Inland Revenue and I went to Newcastle as a regular recruit, just a
Okay.
regular recruit in Newcastle. And
Mhm.
that was from July 2001.
Okay. So you did the regular training, infantry training, you've gone through basics and all of that. And then I'm assuming you were a soldier for a little while before transitioning over into the Air Wing, is that correct?
Um, I was a soldier for about 4 or 5 days, fully, because in
Okay.
once I went through Newcastle, Newcastle's
Yeah.
training or training then was 6 months roughly. So I
Okay.
started in July, and my graduation was the 21st of December. Now,
Okay.
I would have indicated earlier that my life is all about opportunities, and
Opportunities, yes.
if persons watching this get anything at all from what I'm saying, it's just making the best use of every single opportunity that you have. So when I
Okay.
was in Newcastle, to become an officer in the JDF, as it is now, it hasn't changed as yet. You
Okay.
require 5 CXC subjects and 2A levels. No, it is 2 CAPE. That was the minimum standard. I only had 6 CXC subjects.
Okay.
So, just a quick story. Before I left XED, I had written to the JDF when I left high school. Actually, I said, "Hey, I'd like to become an officer in the Jamaica Defense Force," and I got a letter, and they said, "Thank you for your interest, but you require 5 CXC subjects and 2A levels. You have 6, but you need to go and do your A levels." I said, "Okay, all right, cool." Still didn't do the A levels. When I left XED, I wrote them back and I said, "Hey, listen, I would have completed at least a year. Can I get a
Yes.
certificate or something?" And they said, "Okay, come for a certificate." So they gave me a certificate,
Okay.
and I rewrote JDF, and they said, "Reference our last letter. You still don't
Yeah.
qualify because you can't use a certificate for A levels." So I said, "Okay." So when I was in Newcastle, the training officer then was Major, well, not the detachment commander was Major Jamie Ogilvy, and the
Okay.
training officer was then Lieutenant Marlon Kennedy,
Okay.
and the depot sergeant major, or the most senior enlisted rank in the depot, was 002 Mackenzie. And between those three, they told me that they saw some potential in me, and as such, they were monitoring me. So when my family came up for Family's Day, my sister brought up my certificates from my CXCs and all that, and they looked through and they said, all right, he doesn't have any A-levels, but because of how he's performing in the intake, we're going to give him an opportunity. So I was monitored from at least August into December. So like 1 month in, they started monitoring me to see if I was good enough to become an officer. So I passed out on the 21st. I went home to see my family, and then I came back to do the officers selection board on the 27th.
Okay.
And I did the selection board, and I passed. And from the 27th to the 30th, I did the selection board, and then I was a regular soldier because I passed out and everything. So I got my regimental number and everything.
Sure.
And then like it just happened very fast thereafter. I did an interview with Colonel Carter, and I was successful. And I said, hey, listen, we're going to send it to England. And I went to England off on officers training by the 4th of January 2002. So as I said, roughly about 4 days, 5 days as a regular soldier.
That was pretty quick.
Second?
I'm saying that was pretty quick between the 21st, the 27th, and then no January 4th here in England.
Indeed. And it was just, as I said, all opportunity based. Opportunity to do the selection board, opportunity for a course to come up at that point. Just everything that was happening. I was just grabbing what I could and running with it. So that was my sojourn from recruit training to England. Okay.
What was it? What was the training like at Newcastle? Just out of curiosity, what was that basic training like?
It was very rough. I thought cadet prepared me in a sense, so I kind of got used to the cold in Newcastle. But for the type of training that was to come as a soldier, I was not necessarily prepared for that. And I think I was properly brainwashed in Newcastle. So whatever they told me is what I did. I needed to complete that training because I needed that for my own personal development. But I also needed to prove to a couple of people that, hey, I could do this. So the training, it was 6 months. JDF's training now is about 3 months. We went through 6 months of harsh physical demanding training. So once we were finished, we were ready. We were ready. And it was old school army training. So guys appreciated what was to come. And if you check it, most of us when we completed training, and there was nothing that anybody could do to us when we went on the street that would easily get us upset or anything. We went through turmoil up in Newcastle, days and nights from cold into heat. That was the thing about Newcastle. The nights are cold, but then comes the day, and the days are hot and burning. And I think it prepared us physically, but more so mentally. And I'm very, very grateful for all my instructors. Pardon me for calling a lot of the names, but I'm very, very grateful for persons that I do mention during this live interview.
No worries. And I'm assuming that when you did go to England, the training was not as harsh in England, or was it?
England was a different kind of cold than Newcastle. Newcastle's cold was crisp and dry. England was wet and miserable. So from the barrack room standpoint, I was good because I just went through 6 months of Newcastle. If you live through and get through Newcastle from a barrack room standpoint, no worries. From a physical standpoint, no worries. From a mental toughness standpoint, no worries. So none of them things that fazed me whilst I was in England. But the wet cold of England, and then it was a different culture. that I was being introduced to. So those for me were the challenging aspects. But once I got to like the end of the first term, I was so settled in, and it was a smooth sailing for me from there.
From there, okay. And was England your first time out of the country at that point?
It was. It was. Listen, man. The first time I left Jamaica, it was my good friend, Andre Bennett. Andre Bennett is an instructor pilot now in the Middle East. And you know you're in Jamaica and you make a nice suit. My uncle was a tailor. And I got on the airplane in Kingston. We had a stopover in Miami, and then from Miami to London. Listen, when I got off that plane, there was no tunnel for me to walk through. You got off the plane and walked down on the tarmac. When that breeze hit me, my brother, in that thin suit, I was just hustling. I'm like, I just need to get into the building. It was cold, but it was a very, very good experience nonetheless. And as I said, I went through with my colleague Bennett, and we went to the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, the best officer training institution in the entire world.
So I've heard.
And it was very, very, very. Sandhurst was very good for me. And again, I made the best of all the opportunities. When I got an opportunity in August of 2002 to carry or to represent Jamaica at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in honor of her birthday. So the embassy asked us, so whilst my friend Bennett was on the parade, I got the opportunity to carry the flag on behalf of Jamaica at that particular Jubilee. So it was very, very good for me. And then back to Sandhurst I went, and by the time I finished Sandhurst, I was recognized as the most outstanding cadet. So I left Sandhurst with the first sword to be granted to an overseas cadet.
Oh, okay, that's good. Congrats for that.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's a good accomplishment. But between joining the JDF, between training at Newcastle, and between going to England, was flying any at all in your mindset at that point, or were you just you just wanted to get in the army and then go to flying, or?
Everybody I speak to, I always tell them, even though when I talk to my unit, and they laugh, I said I joined the JDF to turn a sergeant. That's what I joined for. I joined because I wanted to turn a sergeant. Sergeant and captain, that's the only two rank people know back then. The army, and general, of course. All right.
Yeah.
So flying was nowhere near me. The closest thing I came to flying was that where I'm from in St. Catherine is about 20 miles long final going into runway 12 at Norman International Airport. So I saw a lot of airplanes going in.
Coming in.
And I'm like, exactly. But that was far from my mind. Becoming a pilot, no sir. I want some soldier. So the flying thing never really come around until another opportunity came about.
Okay, so tell us about that. How did that opportunity come about?
Okay, so when I came back from England in 2002, my colleague and I, we went straight to the Air Wing. We went straight to the Air Wing because we were still officer cadets. We weren't commissioned fully as yet, so we had to see a commissions board. And so we couldn't wear our second lieutenant ranks. We were still officer cadets. So if we were second lieutenants, more than likely, they would have sent us directly to the regiment, to the infantry. But they sent us to the Air Wing until we saw the commissions board. So whilst at the Air Wing, we were approached. My friend is a engineer by profession. So he had gone to UTech and done his engineering degree. So he wanted to be an engineer. Me, I just wanted to done sergeant. So when I got back to the Air Wing, and they're like, all right, listen, you two. You guys want to turn pilots? Are you interested in flying? So I'm like, I'll
Another
choose it.
opportunity.
So yeah, and we did an aptitude test, and there were two tests that you could do back then, two written tests. One was 1 hour for those persons who were in prior aviation before,
Okay.
and then there was a 3 hour test. So we did the 1 hour test, and they marked it, and we both passed. And then my very, very good friend now, Sean Reed, he was the primary instructor at the Air Wing at that time. He's like, no, 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 no. These guys need to do this 3 hour test. We need to know what they're made of. And, if they really have the aptitude for this thing. So we went and we did the 3 hour test. And both of us passed. And from there, we were at the Air Wing. They didn't move us. And then by the time another of my very, very good friends, Siobhan Smith, and Elon Clark came back from Sandhurst. So all of us started aptitude flying, pre-ab initio. So we did pre-ab initio at the Air Wing with Sean Reed as our primary instructor. And we went through most of that in 2003.
Okay.
And that is how the whole flying thing started. And in 2003, back then when we were doing a lot with Canada, so we would do aptitude or pre-ab initio, and then some guys, because of all of our training was being done in Canada at that time, the guys will go up and do aircrew selection in Toronto. If you pass, then you'll proceed right to Portage and conduct your training. And if you fail, most times, often than not, you come back home and you may get an opportunity again, or that may be it for your flying career. So we did pre-ab initio, and in August of 2003, 5 of us went to Toronto to do aircrew selection. All of us went through, all of us did the test, all 5 of us failed the test, all 5 of us. And when Sean Reed called and he was like, I have flown with all of these guys. I know their potential. I think that they should go to Portage because we've seen instructors fail that aircrew selection. So there's some things happening with it. So the decision was made, and 3 of us were chosen to go to Portage to commence flight training. I was not in that 3. The 3 persons that were selected was Andre Bennett, Siobhan Smith, and Sildon Thompson. Sildon Thompson had completed all of his training already, so he had completed pre-ab initio whilst he was still an officer cadet. So those 3 were selected, and Elon Clark and myself, we came back to Jamaica. I'd just like to highlight that of the 5 of us that went to aircrew selection and failed, 4 of us are professional pilots right now. And the other one is pretty high ranked in terms of his position. He's still in the military, representing the Jamaica Defense Force overseas right now. So it in essence worked out for all 5 of us still, despite we did not make it in the aviation profession. So Bennett, Smith, and Thompson went to Portage. So I came back to Jamaica, and I went back to the Air Wing. And at one point, I thought that was it for my career where flying was concerned. I didn't know that I would be given another opportunity. So my friend was shipped off to the regiment. We both were shipped off to the regiment, and I went to 2GR. And whilst I was at 2GR, I got very comfortable because that's the thing with me. If I'm in a position, in a state, I'm doing something, I get into it and I make it a lot of fun. It has been my hallmark. So when I got to 2GR and every single thing that I was trained for at Sandhurst, I now got an opportunity to do it. I had my soldiers to command, I had my platoon, every single thing that they taught us, I was now living it out, and I was getting so good into it, getting used to it. But along came 2004, and I got a call that, hey, you should be returning to the Air Wing. So I went to my CO then, and he said, no, that's not going to happen. You're doing very well here. You should stay in the infantry. This is for you. And a lot of persons saw it that way because here it is that a recruit came out of Newcastle, went to Sandhurst, got the sword, came back, perfect opportunity to be the next training officer.
Yeah.
But that wasn't to be. So the commanding officer of the Air Wing then was Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Roper. And he said,
Yes.
no, 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 no. This guy would have gone and he had done aircrew selection. We need to at least get him back down here to see, because the other three are in Portage, they're doing well, and
Yeah.
he needs to go to Portage as well. So eventually I went back to the Air Wing, and let's call it a second opportunity. I got a second chance, and I went to Portage in September of 2004. And I would have caught Bennett, Smith, and Thompson there for about a month and a half before they eventually came. And there pretty much started my flying career.
Yeah. Okay. So between the first trip to Toronto, and then you had to come back home. I think you said it was August 2003. It was almost a year before you went back to Canada, as you said, that second opportunity where you actually did go and do the flight training.
That is correct, because I would have spent approximately about 8 months at 2JR, the 2nd Battalion Jamaica Regiment. And then I went back to the Air Wing, did a little bit more flights before I eventually went to Canada.
Canada, okay. And what was the training like in Canada? What was the entire experience there like?
So Canada was another form of cold.
Cold, yeah.
Now England will get to a particular temperature. The temperature was just ridiculous in Canada. I was experiencing temperature like -30, -40, -15. Like the average temperature when I was in Canada was about -25. That is Eskimo business in the boss, man.
Yeah.
I hear the Jamaican.
I can only
right?
imagine.
But Canada was good. And in terms of the preparation that we had going through pre-ab initial here, when we got there, we were fairly comfortable. Well, at least I was, because we've had persons who didn't make it through the first phase. So I was fairly comfortable. And during the first phase, the biggest challenge that I had was just a proper side picture shooting and approach from a half flap landing. I can't forget it. And the instructor said, yeah, this trip was not good because your approaches weren't good. The landings were okay, but the approaches weren't good. So that was the closest thing that I came to a stall per se or a struggle per se during my entire flying progress at in Canada. And you know, once you get over ICHT, then for the most part you're smooth sailing until you get to helicopter school. It's a completely different business. So I got through that first phase, got used to the temperature, and was just focused, because this is another opportunity for, you know, Brian Lundy to do something else. And I was just running with it. I had it here in my hand, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let this go until, you know, I got these wings. And you know, Canadians are very, very professional, and I'm not saying that other cultures, other persons that I've met are not professional, but Canada has one of the best aviation programs in the entire world, and that's why they train so many different nationalities. And in terms of the setup that was there, it was very, very good, very professional people. Persons want to see you succeed, and as long as you were prepared for your trips, then in a sense you would have been fine, and the instructors would in a sense help you to be successful or to succeed on what you were doing. So that was good.
Okay, I heard you mention ICHT earlier. What exactly does that mean?
So that is it's a initial clear and handling test. So that's the first big test per se. Once you get to flight school, or once I got to flight school, that I had to do. So once you get through that, then you know you start doing more flying, and you're going on to more challenging work. but at
Okay.
least once you get through ICHT, you would have shown sufficient potential that you can manage the aircraft. You have still have the aptitude for flying, and there's potential there to take on more challenging stuff.
Okay, cool. So you pretty much completed your I would say initial flight training in Canada, and then you came home. And did you do the rest of the training here in Jamaica, or everything was done in Canada?
So I finished the JDF's training is modeled primarily off the Canadian system in terms of how our pilots attain their wings. You do training on a single engine aircraft,
Sure.
airplane, and then once you complete, we call it PFT, primary flight training extended, then you get a choice if you want to go to helicopters or you want to go to multi-engine flying.
Ah, okay.
When I was in Canada, we did not get the option for multi. Every single person that was there with me and those who were before me all went to helicopters because at that time, JDF, we didn't have a
Only had
multi-engine platform
helicopters.
flying very often, but we were flying a lot of helicopters. We had some single engine airplane and we had the Islander as well. But as I said, everybody in Portage went to fly helicopters. So when I finished PFT extended, I went on to fly the Bell 206 on helicopter school. And I guess that was the turning point for me because I had never been in a platform that gave me this much life. I flew airplanes and respect all the time to all my friends who fly airplanes and but for me, once I got inside that helicopter, I knew that I'd be flying a helicopter for a very, very long time. Very long time. So I came back home. I came back home in May 2005. And because the course itself went on a break. And then I went back to Canada in October of 2005 to commence helicopter school and completed my helicopter training in April 21st, 2006. That's when I attained this pair of wings. And luckily for us, every pilot that has been trained in Canada not only gets the Jamaican wings, but they get the Canadian wings as well, because we would have trained to Canadian standard to attain our wings. And then I came home. And went right back to the Air Wing to commence no mission-specific work on the platforms that we had.
Okay, and back then the JDF only had the 206 and I believe the 412, right? Or was it 407 here as well?
In 2006, when we got back, there was we didn't have any 206 at that time. We didn't have any 206. We had 206s in the past, but we had sold them. So from a helicopter standpoint, we had the 412, we had 3 of those, and we had the Ecurels, which was the Twin Stars, the Eurocopter AS355N. So we had 4 of those, and we had 3 412s that were doing a lot of flights.
Okay.
So when I came back, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I was saying that in the initial, at least the flyer that we did, we listed all the Bell aircrafts that you flew, but you also flew the Eurocopter as well. Is that correct?
I didn't fly it as a captain. I got an opportunity to fly it as a co-pilot on various missions, but I did not captain that particular aircraft. It was, by the time I got to captain's estate, we had sold them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have only flown as captain from a helicopter standpoint, only Bell aircraft.
Bell. Okay. All right. And so when you came back to Jamaica and you started flying the helicopters, what was that initial experience like flying back home?
Oh, it was good. We were doing a lot more missions back then, and we had a very, very senior set of pilots back then as well. When I got back to the Air Wing, you had pilots like Colonel Roper flying the 412. You had Major Charlton Jackson flying the 412. Paul Brown as well. And then in the reserves, you'd have a whole host of other senior pilots as well. I caught persons like Greg Webster, who is back with us now at the Military Aviation School. I caught people like Martin Sutherland. I caught people like a few guys who are now actually flying airplanes. So I caught a lot of those guys in the reserve. Francis Millwood. And then in the regular force, we had people like Martin Beek, Sean Reed, Jeremy Mullins, Brian Creary. So those were some of the pilots that I grew up with and who I would have done a lot of missions with as well. But when I came back, the normal progression was to become a co-pilot on the 412. So that was the first training that I did, to become a co-pilot on the 412. And I would have flown as a co-pilot on the 412 2006. Then in 2007, we purchased the 407 helicopters. There was 2 in 2007 and then another 2 in 2008. And we also purchased the 206s in 2007 as well. So now we were moving from just 412s and Ekerels to now 206, Ekerels, 407 and 412. Until we saw the Ekerels, then we were now back to our Bell fleet. So the 206s were for training, as you can imagine.
Sure. Yeah.
But the 407s and the 412 were now fully operational aircraft.
Okay.
So yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was about to ask what type of missions would you engage in the military, or at least those that you can speak about.
Oh, sure. So from a military standpoint and the missions that we conduct, I'm sure a lot of persons would have seen the helicopter flying about Kingston or up into the hills with this large looking bucket underneath it. So we do a lot of aerial firefighting to assist the Jamaica Fire Brigade in forest fires or hill fires, areas that are inaccessible to them. We do a lot of troop transport. We move around our troops a lot. We do a lot of aerial surveillance as well in assistance to the Jamaica Constabulary Force. We do a lot of search and rescue in tandem with the JDF Coast Guard. We do a lot of casualty evacuation, and that is primarily moving persons in a state that require advanced treatment. So we move them from either the hospitals in the rural areas to other hospitals that they can get treatment. And also persons at sea, whether they're sick, injured or whatsoever, to bring them to land-based hospitals to get treatment as part of our whole search and rescue mission. And just a wide variety of mission roles that we do. And I guess that's what keeps us very, very motivated here, because we're not aligned to just doing one particular mission.
One thing. Yeah. It's not like the airlines, especially back in maybe even Air Jamaica days. You're either going to go to Miami, New York, Toronto. It's always a set type of flying from point A to point B. But just like what Martin Sutherland had said in his interview, and Jason Morris, the low-level flying. I don't remember the type of flying that they had mentioned, but it had to do with low-level flying, and I think they were, dropping off soldiers at the ganja fields to tear them down, and then they'll pick them back up. That type of flying. I'm not sure what the term was. I don't know if you can help me.
Yeah, it's an operation called Operation Buccaneer.
Buccaneers, yes.
Which we sought to eradicate illegal marijuana farming in tandem with the infantry or the Jamaica Regiment, as they're very popularly known now. So we did that, and that operation we did for a very, 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 very long time. So they got an opportunity. It's one of those missions that pilots look forward to. So when I told you that persons in the reserves, a lot of them were flying with Air Jamaica, but they would come back in the reserve because they still got an opportunity to fly helicopters. And so they did that. You mentioned Jason Morris as well. I don't think I've flown in helicopter with Jason Mars himself, but I would have been in the unit while he was in the reserve. So all these guys I got to meet as a regular guy, they're in the reserve before they went on to doing other things further away from Jamaica.
Okay. Okay. One of the main questions that I wanted to ask you, which lies with the flying, in the JDF, you're flying different type of Bell aircraft, but every aircraft, as we know it, as much as they may have their similarities, they have their differences. How do you, in a sense, I don't know if it's a case that you discipline yourself or prevent from having any mishaps between, from that's caused by jumping between different aircraft. So let's say you're flying the 407 today, but tomorrow you're flying the 412. The following day, or even the same day, based on the type of mission, you are going to fly a different type of aircraft, based on what's available in the fleet. How do you prevent any mishaps from jumping from aircraft to aircraft?
So back in the day, that existed.
Okay.
That existed where persons were qualified on multiple platforms. And I must highlight that some of the most professional people, some of the most professional pilots that you'll find are JDF pilots, and I say that without reservation. If you check with some of the pilots now flying in various companies right across the world, you will find that these guys, having attained military wings, it's a completely different form of flying. And in terms of the attitude that they bring to certain organizations as well, it just comes back to the whole discipline that they have. And no offense to anybody who didn't go through military training. I'm saying pilots and piloting is a profession that comes with a particular mindset. So you find that persons in this particular career field are very, very professional people. And as such, they're able to move from one platform to the other if they have to. And it still maintains and carries over. So we used to do that back in the day. And, in looking at how we were advancing, we decided to, as it is now, and as it exists in the military right now, you can maintain qualification on two similar types.
Okay.
So you can fly a 407 and you can fly a 429.
Okay.
Our 407s and 412s are now decommissioned, so we don't really fly those aircraft anymore. We have since now moved to the 429. So the question that you would have asked, we've now made it very, very easy for ourselves in terms of maintaining currencies and all that by going to one particular platform. The 206 is not flown by all helicopter pilots, only those persons who are primarily so qualified and operating at the school. So you will find that a few pilots have multiple qualifications either on the 429 or on the 206. What we don't encourage as it is right now is operation on a helicopter and qualification also on a fixed wing aircraft. We're saying that if you're flying fixed wing, then we'll allow you to fly fixed wing. If you're flying helicopters, then you fly helicopters, but we're not going to have you switching back and forth as it is now.
Back and forth.
So that's how it is right now in the JDF. So it's a means of evolving, and we found that in a sense it works out much better for us as it is now. In terms of one, the amount of time that it requires to keep persons qualified on both platforms and all that. So I mean it's what exists now at the JDF, and I mean I don't foresee it changing anytime soon right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that clarification. So I know a lot of persons, especially those who are watching, want to have an idea what it takes to get into the JDF, and especially the Air Wing, because it's one of the pathways that persons can take if they want to become pilots. It's either they enroll in a flight school, or they join the JDF with the hope of getting into the Air Wing, or even the cadets. I believe the cadet has a flight program. I don't think it's operational now, but it should be
Not
soon.
right, right.
Yeah, so there are pretty much three ways that they can get into aviation right now. But for those who want to get into the Air Wing, how would they go about doing that? Is it the same as how you went through back in 2001 until now, or is there a different way to do it now? And there's also, it's also said that the JDF Air Wing takes, you know, the, what do you call it, creme de la creme, the best of the best, that is very competitive to get in. So maybe you can either confirm or clarify, or, you know, whatever it is.
Sure. So to become a pilot in the JDF Air Wing, you have to become first an officer in the Jamaica Defense Force. To become an officer in the Jamaica Defense Force, based on the required qualifications right now, you must possess 5 CXC subjects and 2 capes, Unit 1 and 2. So you can't come in Unit 1 alone. You must have Unit 1 and Unit 2 in cape. If you possess a diploma, we will assess it as well.
Okay.
If you possess an undergraduate degree, then you're even more qualified. A master's, very much so qualified. And if you have a PhD, then very good on you. But that is the minimum qualification. So take into factor the minimum qualification, you join the JDF. And once you're successful in the requisite courses, then you return to Jamaica, having done your officers training and all of that. You return to Jamaica and you serve. Now, as it is now, young officers do not come directly to the Air Wing. So I can't say if you spend a year overseas on officers training, you're going to come directly to the Air Wing as it is now. That is not how the human resource management is being done right now. What we're doing is giving young officers an opportunity to learn more about the JDF by allowing them to serve in the infantry. And you get to see a lot of stuff. You get to go on operations. You appreciate the JDF a little bit more for what it is.
Okay.
Having served in the infantry, hopefully during that time, you get to do the aptitude test. If you remember me telling you about my aptitude test,
Yes.
we know about aptitude test that we set. And if you pass the aptitude test, then your name is now set down amongst the records that this man is successful in the aptitude test. So he or she is a candidate to now go on pre-ab initio training, which is that in essence 10 flights to determine your full now aptitude, practical aptitude for aviation. So let's say a person joins the JDF in January of 2020. He goes on a 1-year course per se, finishes by December 2020. He returns to the Jamaica Defense Force, goes on his OJT in the infantry, probably like for 2 years, two years. Yeah. Having done his aptitude test, does his time in the regiment, he comes back. He doesn't come directly to the Air Wing. What we do is to enroll him into the Caribbean Military Aviation School, which is now a part of the Directorate of Training and Doctrine unit at the JDF. And he goes through pre-ab initio. If he passes pre-ab initio, then he rolls into PFT extended. Now, PFT extended and subsequent fixed multi-engine or rotary wing technically is supposed to last no longer than a year per se, if you look at it for flight training. But we have had our challenges. And we've had persons in training, some up to even 3 years. But we're working to fix that. So 1 year of officers training, and then probably 2 years in the infantry. That's 3 years. Probably another year to complete your training. So we're saying that having joined the JDF, you can possibly be a qualified wings pilot if everything works and holds true to the time in 4 years.
Okay. All right. Before I continue, Colonel, the Instagram only gives us 1 hour for each broadcast. So we're going to end this one, seeing that the time is almost up, and then we're going to come back again and finish the segment. Yes, Colonel.
Yeah, man.
Back at it. All right. So you were just clarifying how to to join the JDF and then
Right.
transition over into the Air Wing through CMAS and going through the required prerequisites, if you want to call
Yeah.
it. So is there anything else that you were adding to that?
No, I mean that is exactly what will happen once you become a member of the JDF. You have to become a military officer, because as it is now, only military officers fly aircraft within the JDF.
Okay.
So once you become a military officer, you're well on your way. If you ask me, I'd say that is half your battle won, and then the
Okay.
rest is now just up to you, the individual,
Sure.
based on your aptitude for flying and your ability to take in what is being told, take in what is being taught, and
Okay.
regurgitating it via the controls.
Okay. And is there like an age group? So if you pass a certain age, is it that you can't join the JDF anymore? Is there a limit?
um, as it is now, the Jamaica Defense Force is looking to um, we're looking to overall how we do selection of officers in the JDF. So as it
Okay.
is now, the age group goes up to 23, 18 to
Oh.
23.
Okay.
And we have been allowing persons who have tertiary level qualifications. So if you have a BSc
Mm-hmm.
or undergraduate degree, or you have a master's, then we take into consideration the time that you would have taken to get that qualification. And as such, we have
Okay.
considered persons up to 27
Okay.
who have come to join the JDF. I think 27 is the oldest, but that person possessed a degree already. Um,
Okay.
but we're now looking at that as it is now. We'll still allow persons with tertiary level qualification beyond the 23-year age limit.
Okay. Because there was someone who had posted a question
Yeah.
and saying that he had some issues joining the JDF with the intent of going into the Air Wing, and I'm just trying to find back that message because there was a specific question in that regard about the age difference. So if I remember correctly, he had shown interest to join the JDF, but he had an undergraduate degree, and he had some issues with the school that he got the degree from, some administrative issues. So he was not the degree was not released to him in time for him to join the JDF at, I believe, 25 or 26. So he's now 27, had sorted out all issues with the school, and is still looking to get into the JDF with the intent of transitioning over to the Air Wing. So is there any advice that you can give to somebody like that?
Yeah, sure. What I'll say to him is that the JDF has its rules and regulations in terms of
Sure.
persons that are coming to apply for a job as an officer. But if it is that he had those issues, what I'll say to him is still apply right to the JDF, and then leave that decision to the persons who are going to make it
Okay.
at the JDF, whether or not they seek to allow him to continue the process or not. But I'll say still apply, knowing fully well that he now has control and having been awarded fully the degree. So I'll say yes, make an application
Okay.
as it is now.
And I believe he actually did, but hasn't received any response from the JDF. Is there anybody else or any other avenues, or should he just call back, or just keep pressing until he
Yeah,
gets
he
an
can
answer?
he can call back and just to query his application. You can appreciate that the JDF is where officers are concerned, and this is what a lot of people actually don't know. But we recruit right throughout the year in terms of our
Okay.
officers recruitment. Whilst we have set periods for training, we recruit right throughout the year. And the only thing that has caused a reduction is what has been affecting the world. It's the whole coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah.
But that being said, we are now ramping back up our actions to recommence our recruiting process, not just for officers, but for overall members of the Jamaica Defense Force. So I'll say to him, just write, or at least call back in and have readily his TRN, so they can query his application.
Okay, all right, understood. I appreciate that. So do you have any general advice for, young people, middle-aged people, just persons in general who wants to get into aviation? What kind of advice do you have for them?
Definitely. If you, at the start of this program, I would have indicated that for me and how I got to where I am was all opportunities, all opportunities. But the opportunity is one thing. What you do with the opportunity is the biggest thing. Whether you choose to waste it, whether you choose to run with it at probably 50%, or you choose to grab it and you're going with it 100%. And my advice to people who are looking to become, aviation personnel, not just pilots, as you would have indicated, but who are choosing a career in aviation is, one, there will be opportunities. You have to be ready. You have to be ready. Being prepared is the hallmark of any aviation professional. It just makes a whole lot of sense. It highlights who you are. It highlights your professionalism. It highlights your attitude that you have towards the thing. You just have to be prepared. You have to be ready. As a pilot, we are given checklists. And there's a reason why we have checklists. We put things in place and we follow a particular order, right, to get us to a particular state. Right? But before we even reach inside that aircraft to start working with that checklist, you, the individual, have to be in a state to take on what is to come. So you have to be ready. I cannot overemphasize it about, just getting to a particular state of readiness that now prepares you for what is to come. I also appreciate that, where we are in Jamaica, where aviation is concerned, we really need a reinvigoration. We need a reignition. And it may take probably persons who are in a position to do that, to take on certain things, because, I think in terms of the professional pilots that Jamaica has produced, and where they are right across the world, it really irks a lot of them, I can imagine, as to where we are as a country from an aviation standpoint, and the opportunities that are available to youngsters, which is not a lot. So before we even close or finish off this interview, let me commend you, Samuel, for what you are doing to promote and to, keep people thinking, keep people interested in the whole aviation via the Aviation Club Jamaica, and via, your constant dialogue with persons who are either retired from the profession but still playing an active part in other people's lives, or persons who are still in the profession, many of which are my friends, many of which I would have met even through just day-to-day interactions with other people outside of the military. So I cannot overemphasize, I cannot stress enough, what you are doing to make what aviation should be. And I really, really hope that, my friends and others out there see what you're doing, be a part of the thing, so we can get back to a state where opportunities are given to the youngsters. Because I know there's a lot of persons in Jamaica, but they're just looking for an opportunity, and we have to create that opportunity.
Definitely. I appreciate those kind words, and that's exactly what we're trying to do via this platform, is to create that opportunity. Because my story is a little bit along the line of creating the opportunity for myself, and then by extent it benefited others as well. So, I attended Meadowbrook High School back in 2006, and we were encouraged to partake in extracurricular activities each week in the allotted time. And there were clubs like the Key Club and the Tourism Action Club and, you know, different sporting activities that we were encouraged to partake in, but nothing really got my attention. Nothing, you know,
Right.
yeah, I wasn't interested in anything apart from flying. So with the little knowledge that I had, I just knew that I wanted to fly and why not start a club that I would be interested in. And there were others from research that wanted to be a part of it as well. So we started, and that was the foundation of the opportunity. But we realized that we needed to do more. You know, there's so much that we could do in the classroom, and we already
Yep.
went through so many hours in the classroom learning math, English, chemistry, all of these subjects. But we wanted it to be more of a social platform as well as educational. So that's how the club started, and we actually started venturing out to Tinson Pen and linking up with these professionals at the flight school and those who are working in the airport environment at Tinson Pen. They loved what was going on, encouraged us to keep coming, and we eventually started flying in our Bulla suits, you know, flying up and down with whatever money that we had pulled together. And then other schools started hearing what we were doing and wanted to emulate, so we had linked up with them. But then we realized that while we were having an impact on individual lives in the high school, you know, students going off to whichever university or whichever flight school overseas, you know, back home, the general aviation community is pretty much non-existent or very quiet. You know, yes, they have been focusing on building the commercial side. You know, the airports are
Right.
getting all of these
Yeah.
type of new towers and new infrastructure and new equipment and all of that, but you'd hardly see a Cessna 172 flying now. You hardly see any activities for aviation enthusiasts to even come to Tinspen and say, hey, you know, I want to fly, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And there's nothing out there. So we're really trying to just fill the gap. And there are a number of persons in this industry who have helped me along my journey, you know, knowing that I wanted to become a pilot, knowing that I needed the flight hours as soon as I got my license, who have turned a helping hand and said, all right, Sam, as you said, they gave me the opportunity and I grabbed it, and they have been giving and giving and giving, which has helped to bring me to where I am now. Namely Christopher Reed, the Jeffrey Meeks, who, you know, operates his own 182 and knew that I needed the hours as a young pilot, and like me and many others before me has said, you know, come and fly, come and get the hours, and I've learned, you know, a lot from these guys. So apart from trying to fill a gap, it's also for me on a personal level giving back as much as I was given.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's it for me. And a part of the passion for me for aviation is sharing it with others. That's how one of the ways I enjoying it. You know, sharing it with others and say,
Yeah.
yo, listen,
I think
this
very,
is a
very,
very,
very good job on your part.
you know,
Very good job.
it's a very exciting career. It's something I'm passionate about, and a lot of people are passionate about. You know, it's a very fulfilling career, as a matter of fact. So to see others get that experience through aviation is it's fulfilling for me as well. So you know that's pretty much what we're trying to do. And we thank persons like yourself who have, you know, made the time and the effort to speak to those who are looking to follow on a similar journey. I'm glad we chose you because, as you mentioned, you have come from a very humble beginning. You know, dropped out of school because you didn't have the finances and pretty much just knew that you wanted to get in the JDF but didn't see anything beyond just becoming a sergeant. But no matter what opportunity you were given, you took it, you know, stemming from the Inland Revenue Department or with Food for the Poor into the JDF, then into the Air Wing, into the Air Wing without, you know, knowing that you'd have been even flying a helicopter. Today, you know, you probably think that you'd have been on the streets assisting the JCF or you know, just doing the regular JDF stuff, but no, you're flying helicopters on search and rescue missions and Buccaneer missions. You are, you know, doing all sorts of stuff in the area, more than you have probably, you know, imagined. And I know a lot of other people have similar backgrounds like you, and will find a lot of inspiration from your story because of, you know, the similarities in their journey. So I appreciate, you know, you coming and speaking to everyone. I mean, it is more inspirational than I thought it would have been, because I didn't know all about this. I've been one of those who have been introduced to you, thankfully, through the internet with the Black Mule IG page, all of these lovely pictures that I've seen. And then, as you know, we ran into each other at Airways, at Tinselpen as well, and that's where we formally met, and have a working relationship from there. But apart from that, I didn't know anything else. So all of the questions and information you provided, I'm learning about yourself as well, and it is very inspirational to see that you have made something of yourself more than you have even imagined. And I'm sure your mother, if she's alive, hopefully she would have been very proud.
Oh, she is. My mother is my biggest cheerleader, even until this day. She doesn't miss a parade, none whatsoever.
Yeah, and I imagine she's absolutely proud and happy that you made something of yourself in spite of the challenges that you have had. Growing up, a lot of young persons with a similar background chose a different path, which is sad to say, not the best road that they could have taken, but you made the choice, the right choice, and as a result, you have been successful, and your family indirectly have benefited from your choice as well, and from your struggling through the cold at Newcastle and England and Canada. So it is very inspirational, very motivating, and I thank you for just giving back and making the time to share your story today.
No problem at all. It was and is my pleasure to have been here. And just before I go, I just like to tell people that it doesn't matter where you go, and it doesn't matter how much you achieve in life. That recognition is for you. What you do after attaining that particular level is what is going to define you. And what Brian Lundy would like to be defined as is that person who created opportunities for everybody else or anybody else who wanted that opportunity.
Sure.
So as it is now, I head the Air Wing. As it is now, I am qualified as the most senior pilot in the JDF. And all my pilots can tell you, in terms of where I am, my aim is if I can get everybody at the level that I am, or even higher, then that is me achieving what I would have set out to do. So as the head of the Air Wing, I want all my pilots to be as professional as they can. I want my pilots to be as talented as they can. I want my pilots to achieve as much as they can within the aviation environment, within the JDF that they can as well. And then once they know attain certain things, to know open the doors or keep the doors open for others who are coming. Definitely. I've always said this, I have my son, and I've always said it. Those who are after me must be better, and I've lived by that principle. And I guess that's a good enough thing to end on than anything. Those who are after me must be better.
Definitely. All right. Well, before you go, I just wanted to open up to any questions that
sure.
persons may have. I know they'll post it in the comments section. So guys, any questions that you have for Colonel Lundy, please post them so that we can get them answered. I mean, I've asked all the questions that you may want to ask, so please go ahead and ask them.
Should I go to Martin's question? Martin is asking my favorite aircraft. The Bell 412 EP helicopter is the best aircraft that I have flown to date, and I absolutely love that aircraft. I call it the Beast. So the 412, magical.
Are there currently any women in the Air Wing?
Yes, we have a few female technicians as it is right now in the regular force. I don't have a female regular serving pilot, but I do have a pilot in the reserve force who's a female, and that is Captain Melissa Sinclair.
Sinclair, yeah, okay. Can you touch on the journey coming up to being Scorpion 01?
So I am blue. I am true blue. I am born, bred of the Air Wing, and I live and bleed everything blue. That is who I am. If you cut me, you're not going to red, you're going to blue. I am an Air Wing man, true and true. When I came back from in 2002, I went to the Air Wing, got to wear my sky blue beret by 2003 when I was properly posted, and I have not worn another color beret. Seven except for about 6 months the other day when I went to HQ JDF. I would have served as co-pilot on the 412. My first captaincy came in 2009 on the 407 helicopter. Everybody else got captaincy before me because they said, no, he wasn't ready. And I'm like, all right, eventually my time will come. And my time eventually came, and I became a 407 captain in 2009. By a year later, I was a 412 captain. So I was flying the 407s and the 412 from 2009 2010. And then came along 2018. I was part of 4 pilots to go to Tennessee to pick up our first set of 429s. Okay. Major Sildan Thompson, Captain Jermaine Francis, and Captain Hudson were the other pilots. And we brought them down in 2018. But during my time, I've done a lot of missions. I've gone in the Bogwalk Reservoir Gorge with Captain C.J. Reed. We were recognized nationally for that. We got medals, my entire crew. And then I would have gone on a couple other missions. One standout, we went about 10 to 15 miles off the coast of Savlamar. In the pitch black of night, I was in the 412 again. And this one was done without goggles. And we had to winch a gentleman who had injured his rib off a boat. Okay. And it was one of my most challenging missions. And again, my entire crew was recognized. We got national award and recognized in 2017, I think. Okay. But there's a whole host of other missions. And, I would have served in capacities as an aircraft captain. The most rewarding thing for me at the Air Wing came in 2014 when I went back to Canada. Love Canada. Went back to Canada to do my instructor training. And I did my instructor training on the 412. And then I came back. So I've been teaching as an instructor from January 2014 when I did my first instructional trip with then Major Spence, Andrew Spence. And then I went to Canada to do some more instructor training on the 412. So in essence, 2014, I did a lot of training. And I've been teaching since 2014. So there's a whole host of pilots, some that are here, some that have gone on to other things that I would have had some input in their lives. In 2018, I also became second in command of the unit, and I did most of desk work, and then a whole lot of flying as well, teaching people on the 429. And then in January of 2019, I went to the headquarters Jamaica Defense Force, where I served in a staff appointment as in training. And then I came back to the Air Wing in June 15, 2019 as the acting commanding officer. And the most senior pilot in the JDF attains the call sign of Scorpion 01. Especially if he's a helicopter pilot, he gets a Scorpion sign. So if I would go and fly a fixed wing, I'll be Eagle 01. Okay. But the one don't change. You're one. You're the most senior pilot. Or senior operational pilot, because people say you're not the most senior pilot in the JDF. I'm like, who is that? They're like, well, there's Lieutenant General Meade. He's a pilot. I'm like, well, you're correct. So I'm not the most senior pilot in the JDF, but I'm the most senior operational pilot in the JDF. So that's pretty much been my journey. I've done a lot of other posts. I was adjutant at the JDF Air Wing. I was also responsible for OC2 and 3 flight, which manages all the pilots and manages all the helicopters. Flight safety, I still maintain that qualification. Done stints as flight safety officer as well. And I would have also commanded a couple other, one other unit in the JDF Air Wing, the support flight that has all the vehicles, all the ATCs, all the firemen, and all of that. So, I mean, it has been a journey, but one which I've really, really enjoyed. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. As I've had the experience of flying with some exceptional pilots in the JDF Air Wing. And many of them I would have mentioned before, Colonel Roper, CJ Reed, Martin Beek, Sean Reed, Paul Brown. A lot of these guys I would have flown. And, you know, Charles Jackson, I think, is one of the, you know, best pilots that I've seen on a helicopter. In terms of competence, you know, overall, I've flown with Francis Millwood. Millwood is the smoothest pilot in a helicopter you can find. Like, nobody even comes close to the man. He's so smooth, right? And, you know, I would have taken bits from here, bits from there, and I would have still maintained my true self. So, you know, just learning from people and allowing that which I've learned to make me who I am today as the commander of the Air Wing. Definitely.
All right. So somebody has asked how long you've been flying, and I think based on your story, you've been flying. You have joined the JDF in 2001, but really started flying in 2003.
Well, 2004 to 2006, I call it my my training period, or formal training period, and then operational since 2006. So call yourself 6. Count up to 20. I think I'm about 14 years. Yeah.
Okay. Professional pilot contract officer. Is there such a thing?
Yes, there is. We have been recruiting. Yes, we have been recruiting persons to come, if they're so qualified and they pass the requisite interviews, to be a part of the Caribbean Military Aviation School, where they teach people on the DA-40 and eventually the DA-42. So we have been employing persons via that particular means. We have also sent out advertisement for persons who operate King Air or multi-engine aircraft to come and be a part of us as well because of that new role that we're doing. So those persons who are still interested can still so apply to become a part of the JDF by that means. Yes, definitely.
Okay. The next question is, after becoming an officer, can you transfer to the American or British Army? And if so, how?
I am not fully sure that you can. You can, but it's not that smooth a process. And you have to appreciate that when you join the JDF, you serve for an initial period of 6 years, 7 years, sorry, based on your commission. So you can get a short service commission or a long service commission. A long service commission, like me, is for 20 years. I'm at year 19. So, but to transfer and hold your particular quals or your particular rank to the American Army, no, you can't.
Okay.
For Canadian, because they're part of the Commonwealth, there is a possibility. As to the route, I am not fully aware of it, and likewise for the British, of course, you know, head of the whole Commonwealth, I'm not aware of that process fully either. So I wouldn't want to say it is this way, whilst I wouldn't give advice as such because I don't know. But I'm sure there are parts that you can take for that.
Okay. If you come in as a contract pilot officer, is helicopter training an option?
If we hire you as a helicopter contract pilot, yes. But if we hire you as an airplane contract pilot, then for the most part, we're going to expect you to teach on the airplanes.
Airplanes, okay. The JDF does recruitment, as you mentioned. How often do you recruit from the batch to the air wing, be it the main wing or reserve? So how often is recruitment done?
Well, we recruit right throughout the year because we're always recruiting officers. We're always recruiting officers, and then we still, from a professional entry standpoint, we always encourage people so qualified to make an
Okay,
application to the JDF surrounding that. So from a regular officer standpoint, the recruitment is right throughout the year.
right through. Okay. This question says, do you prefer flying more than driving? I think that's quite obvious.
Yeah.
Would be.
If it's over 3 hours, I'm flying. I'm sorry. I'm flying.
Richard Tate just posted a comment more than a question. It says, I would just like to congratulate Lieutenant Colonel Lundy on his achievements. It was a pleasure working with him as a controller. You were Scorpion 07 back then. Glad to have approved those practice ILS approaches.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah. I think I spent a good while as Scorpion 07, you know.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the pilots left and I worked my way up. And I think this is the longest I've spent at this call sign, as 01.
Okay.
June 15 is my 1 year anniversary per se as CEO of the Air Wing. So I look forward to that on Instagram.
Next question. Good day, Lieutenant Colonel. Does it matter what area of focus your degree is in when joining as an officer?
No, it doesn't matter. We recognize the time and the effort that you have done to get yourself qualified, so it does not matter.
Okay. The next question says, what's been your most challenging mission? I think you had just briefly shared that when you went out to sea on that rescue mission.
Yeah, it was. I was about 10 or 15 miles off the south coast of Savlamar. And the thing is that it was dark, no night vision assistance, and it was a tugboat. Now, a tugboat is not very large. And if you've ever seen or been close to a 412, then you know the downwash being cast from those rotors is close to hurricane strength, so the boat was constantly rocking, but we still had to winch to hoist that person up off the boat. So no light, pitch black, a rocking boat, and challenging sea conditions. But you know, we got him out. We got him out, and we got him to that hospital. So that for me was one of the most challenging missions that I've been on.
But as much as it is the most challenging, it probably has to be one of the most fulfilling missions to know that with all that was against you, you still got the mission done.
Oh yes, we definitely we got it done. My crew of Captain Louis Main, 002 Jackson, and now Corporal Meredith. And it was for him because once he was going down, and at one point we started to rock a little. Now, if you think about the concept of a pendulum, if you rock up here, down at the bottom, it's rocking harder. So he was on the line going on. My concern was about him, and you know, but we did get it done. And you know, sometimes I have flashback and I'm like, ooh, that was a tricky one, but we got out of it good. We got out of it good.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Next question. Do you get to choose where you can go for your officer training, and what are the options if you get to choose?
There are persons who join up who want to go primarily for the Coast Guard. Now, if you're going to join the Coast Guard, then back in the day, I think what we're doing now is that you don't have a choice. Back in the day, you had a choice. If you were going to the Coast Guard, then you go to Dartmouth in England. As it is now, we have been training persons regardless of where they're going to serve. And then we use that officer training just as a developmental process. And then they get to do courses that will align them to their profession. So as it is nowadays, you don't get a choice. And the options as to where we train people remain the United States of America. Canada, China to an extent, and England.
Okay. All right.
We have trained persons in Guyana. We have trained persons in India before, but for the most part, the four primary places remain Canada, US, England,
England.
and China.
Okay. How long is the contract? I believe that's the pilot contract over by SEMA. Somebody's asking how long is usually the contract.
Okay, once you commence that training, you're signing on for an initial period of 9 years.
9 years. Okay.
9 years.
Have you had any incident or close calls?
As a captain, no. I have not had any incidents. I've had a overspeed engine on the ground.
Okay.
But that was it. Close calls. Nah, save and except for some birds fighting for territory in the sky. No, not really.
Oh, okay. All right. I think that was the last question. If anybody else has any additional questions, we can take maybe 5 more for Colonel Lundy before we let him go. So he's been making the time for everybody. Hasn't even come out of uniform yet. So we don't want to keep him too long. Is there a person out there that is unsure as to what they want to do career-wise? What advice would you give them?
That's a tricky question. It is tricky because that person now needs to be at a state where, you know, what he has done so far and what he wants to do. I can give general advice, but that person now, you know, if he's just leaving high school with his cape, or he's just completed university with his degree, because if he's just completed his cape, I'd say, if you can, and you can afford it, or your parents can, go to university. Go to university. Get yourself educated from a tertiary level. And then once you complete that, come and join the JDF. Because we give credit to persons who take the time out to go to school, get themselves educated. Because what we want as a force is an educated force. So the more educated the individuals are, the better it is for force. But I'd say, you know, and for a person leaving, and if your intent is to become a part of the JDF, then, you know, complete the Unit 2 of CAPE, and then make your application to the JDF. We've had persons, I joined the JDF when I was 20. We've had persons joining the JDF from their 17, just going into 18. 17 means the parents has to consent for you to join. And then we've had a lot of 18-year-olds who are still in the military serving, and would have completed, they're not pilots, but they're working in other areas of the headquarters. And then we have persons who join late, but regardless of their age, you know, they have served in capacities, varying capacities in the JDF. So I'll say, you know, just at least take the time to think about what it is that you want to do. And if it is that you're just completed high school and you're unsure, go work out it in college. And if you're now at college level, then you should know exactly what it is that you want and shoot for that.
Okay, cool. The next question is both there. Well, there are 2 questions, but both are related. Where is the best part of the island that you have flown over so far in Jamaica?
North Coast. Heading down to Montego Bay. And then the other place that comes close that a lot of people don't tend to fly is South Coast Negril, coming around to White House, Westmoreland. Beautiful.
Okay. All right. Any plans after the military?
Of course. I won't be at the military forever. But as for those plans, you'll hear about them.
All
But I
right.
always want to do some other forms of flying. So we'll
Okay.
see what happens after the military.
Okay. Great. Somebody says why you love soca so much, and I guess that's tied into the other question as to why you love Trinidad so much, seeing that soca and Trinidad are affiliated.
Those persons probably would have seen me out, because I've always said to people as well, I keep saying, I work very hard, I do. And I believe persons who work hard to get to where they are and who work hard for the families need to take time for themselves to enjoy themselves as well. So I work hard, but I play harder. And the genre music, the soca music, I'm a lover of all genres. But you know, when you get into a vibe where soca is concerned, you get to a state where your mind is free, you're just relaxing, you're just doing it, you're just enjoying yourself. And I find it does that for me. Reggae music does that for me as well. But for where soca is concerned, as I said, I'm just at a state where I'm free, I'm just relaxing, I'm enjoying, and I'm with friends, and it's good. It's good.
Understood. When becoming a soldier, officer, or even a pilot, can you stay on? I guess this person says stay on campus, but I guess it means stay on base, or you go home every day or most days.
Initially, when you become a soldier or an officer, you're expected to be in the barracks for the soldiers or in the mess as a young officer. We encourage that. So you spend a certain amount of time, because you're really trying to appreciate what the military is. I mean, still learning as a young soldier or as a young officer. And it's not like we keep them on base if they come back in December of 2002. Then we say, you got to stay on base until December 2003. No. You do your job, and there's leave afforded to every single worker of the JDF. So you do your time, and you know, if you're not on our one for duty, you get the time off to go and visit your family and all that. But we encourage living on the barracks. And again, that is something that we're looking to renew at the JDF as well, in terms of how we treat with persons coming into the JDF, and taking the time to learn. And you know, eventually all of that will be published and made known to the public, so they can prepare themselves when they do come to the JDF. But they do get some time.
Okay, definitely. What about working civilians that want to become a part of the JDF? Is there a fast track or officer route for those people?
For working civilians who want to be a part of the JDF, they take the similar route to persons who are not employed in the JDF. It's the same route. So if you're a civilian working on base and you want to become a soldier, then the application process is the same thing. Sometimes, based on where you're working, some people will know you and realize that you've now made an application, and you know, but you go through the same testing, you go through the same physical that a person working on the street or a person working in another civilian company would come in and go to. So you're not, if you're fast track, it's just because a person knows you, and you get to probably join a course earlier, but you're not exempted from anything that the other persons are doing or tested on.
Okay. Military pilots or commercial pilots, which pays more?
Commercial pilots, it goes without saying.
Okay. Do you plan to auction some of the pictures you have captured whilst flying? If yes, estimated time frame and venue. Okay, so apparently somebody is interested in those high quality pictures that you have taken, and I assume posted on Instagram, and is willing to pay for it. So it's something to think about.
It is a project I'm looking at, in terms of, you know, opening up and allowing people to at least view and, you know, recognize and frame where they're so interested, purchase as well. But it is a project that I'm planning to undertake. Another project I'm planning to undertake is a book. And since Mr. Chen did Jamaica by air. I don't think we've done any other. And the greatest thing about my images, they're all mobile phone images, despite what person may think. They're all cell phone captures. But then I think it's the capture sometimes why a lot of persons are interested. I am an aviation enthusiast, and I'm really just taking on photography, but I've really loved to appreciate photography for what it is.
Well, whichever brand. Sorry, I was saying that whichever
project
brand
is up and running, I'll let people know. I use Note.
Okay.
I'm a Samsung guy, so
I hope they sponsor you.
I wish they would. Now that the Note 20 is coming out, hey Samsung, I'm ready.
For someone waiting to collect their degree, is a transcript from a tertiary institution an adequate substitute for the actual degree with the application?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that can work. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we asked this earlier, but what's the required age for applying to be a pilot?
Similar for joining the regular JDF, so I said 18 to 23. But if you're so qualified with an undergraduate or a higher degree, then we will consider you beyond that age limit.
Okay, great. All right. The last question was, would you fly commercial? Would you try to fly commercial aircraft?
Yes. Yes, I am. I have that as part of my rollout plans per se eventually when I do leave JDF.
Is there any particular aircraft that you would want to fly, or helicopter for that matter?
From a helicopter standpoint, I've always wanted an opportunity to fly the Apache. I don't think it's going to happen. I've been in one, but I've not gotten an opportunity to fly it. But I really love the 139, the platform. I think it's really nice in terms of the kit and accessories that it comes with from a helicopter standpoint. And then from a fixed wing standpoint, I would love to fly the 777 or the A380.
Okay, well, you have to hurry up with the A380 because I hear that they stopped production, and who knows if they're going to stop flying them soon. So
yeah, I guess, but yeah, I love Boeing and I love Airbus. So
okay, all right. Well, that was the last of the questions. So again, I just wanted to thank you for joining us. Thank you for the story.
My pleasure.
I will send you a copy of this interview later on today, so you can keep for your files. But I mean, keep flying safe. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for serving as well in the military in every way that you do. I know that it's maybe twice as dangerous as just flying a regular flying a regular fixed wing or rotary wing aircraft, just from point A to point B. But as I said, you're flying out there, risking it all just to save one life. And I'm sure that person who was saved that night is very appreciative, is alive because of it. And on their behalf and on the country's behalf, thank you for serving. Thank you for living up to the JDF Air Wing's tagline in Flying for All. And though you're not flying now, you're still here with us all, sharing your journey with us and advice and everything valuable, just the same as if you were in the air. So thank you again.
Anytime, Sam. Anytime. Most welcome.
And we will definitely be in touch with projects going forward that would love your input.
Okay, no problem. Just keep me informed. I'll be here.
All right, Colonel. Thanks again and take care. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you, Sam. You too. And keep up good work.
I will. Thank you.